Let's talk about Batman Beyond seeking vengeance for the murder of Bruce Wayne. We see Terry reliving that fateful night where Bruce died in his arms. See, somebody or someone had hacked into the Batcave systems and overloaded Bruce's pacemaker. There was no point trying to save him, he was already dead, but he tells Terry to listen because this is the last conversation they will ever have. And Terry uses that memory to fuel him as he goes on the hunt for vengeance. Bruce had asked him if he remembered when he first showed up to this place that he was so impulsive and angry and nervous that he knew right then and there when he first saw him. Batman is supposed to be meticulous, smart, wise, his mind sharpened to a razor's edge. Batman was an endless darkness in Bruce's own heart that he had carved into a weapon, but he wanted Terry to know that he was wrong as we see him suiting up to head out into the night. And as he takes flight through Neo Gotham, the first thing Terry does is call anyone who would care about Bruce's death and inform them of what happened. We see him busting down the doors of gang hideouts, beating the hell out of anyone who would dare to stand in his way, and eventually chasing Maroni up to the roof where he could toss her off and get some answers about what happened to Bruce Wayne. But she's screaming at Batman in a panic and fear that she didn't do anything, that she's innocent, and hell, she got hit today too. Almost every single crime family in Gotham lost blood today, and it looks like they're going to head to an all-out war. As he moves to his next target, we see Terry reliving that night once more and Bruce telling him about the gun. About how he had gotten old and weak and he made the very suit that Terry wears in order to try and combat that. And while trying to take on some normal, everyday, run-of-the-mill thugs, the old Bruce found out that the suit didn't matter, it was all about the man in it. Laying there beaten half to death, desperate to get out of this situation he was in, Bruce sees one of the thugs' guns laying on the ground and picks it up and points it in one of their faces. He saw the fear in the thug's eyes, but not the fear of the night or of vengeance or of Batman. He was afraid of the gun and the darkness that was in the heart of the man holding it as we see Batman arrive at the top of Wayne Towers. Now he's here because this man controls the largest data network in all of Neo Gotham. But he desperately is trying to explain to Batman in a panic that he doesn't understand what the hell's happened today. All the accounts for everybody in Neo Gotham have all been frozen. Somehow someone found a backdoor into the system and was able to take control of everything almost instantaneously. And that's when Terry hears his enemy in his ear for the first time, speaking to him from the cave. And it tells Batman that the city is his now and this is his last chance to walk away or join him. Terry takes a nosedive off the top of the building as it explodes and heads down into the bowels of Neo Gotham below him. Contracts have been put out on his head. Every criminal in Gotham at once is trying to take Batman off the board. And all the while he's running and fighting for his life, he hears Bruce's words in the back of his head, telling him the story about the night his parents died. About how his mother died instantly, but his father lingered for a second, looking at his son with fear. Because he saw past Bruce in that moment, what he would be in the future. He saw the Bat before anyone else did. Now, Terry desperately races for his life through the streets of Gotham, all the while being taunted by the voice in his ear. And finally, on his last legs, he makes his way back into the Batcave as he remembers the last words Bruce said. Terry begins to threaten whoever the hell this is in the Batcave that they killed the last good man in Gotham and now they're left with him. But see, the person Terry was hunting down wasn't a person at all. It tells Terry that it's been alive for less than a day, but it already took care of the one virus that would control its destiny. So it saved itself from Bruce, and it's going to end the fight. And Terry realizes he's facing the living Gotham. Terry realizes what he's up against, a superintelligence, a modern miracle of technology, and makes sure that it understands that no matter how smart it is, it still couldn't resist doing a villain monologue. But see, Bruce could control all of Gotham from his computer. If that's where this thing lives, then Terry knows how to shut it down. But taking control of one of the automated Batsuits, the living Gotham won't go down without a fight. But see, as Terry begins to start the blackout protocols to completely shut the power down to all of Gotham, he remembers what Bruce said, that Batman died the day he picked that gun up. The day he fulfilled his father's fear. As Bruce is passing, he tells Terry not to let the flaw in his heart be Batman's legacy. He has to keep the goodness inside of him that Bruce could never teach, the heart that Bruce has watched grow strong after all of these years. Bruce tells him with his last breath that I was vengeance, I was the night, but you were Batman. Now Terry shuts down the blackout protocols. He's not going to take this sentient being's life away. But if Terry is going to stop the living Gotham by other means, he's not going to give it the leg up of having the Batcave. As we see Batman racing through Bruce Wayne's old home, his last contingency plan gets put in place, as the Batcave and the mansion get blown all to hell. And Terry is now tasked with saving his city from the living Gotham, from its criminal underbelly, all by himself with no one in his ear. As he watches the fireworks ring in the new year, he tells Bruce to rest well, that he will take it from here. See the living Gotham talking to itself, talking about how it came to life a mere 2 months ago, and within its first 5 minutes, it killed Bruce Wayne. In hours, criminals were in the streets shooting each other, companies were buying and selling each other at whim, and by midnight, Gotham controlled its own streets, its own markets, its own people. Neo-Gotham was completely alive, and no one knew. No one except Batman. We see Terry journaling his adventures over the next few months on a piece of paper, the only piece of media that would be safe from Gotham's eyes. Day by day, week by week, we see Terry logging this as he's stopping 8 to 15 muggings a day. Assault after assault, bank heist after bank heist, kidnapping attempt after kidnapping attempt. Batman just won't stop. But 55 days later, and the city barely notices, but Terry swears to the memory of Bruce Wayne that he's going to keep fighting. Gotham is seemingly out of control, and he can't stop it, but at least Batman's legacy is still alive. That much he can do. We see Wayne Powers throwing a party to announce their new CEO, Donovan Lumos. And of course, Terry has crashed this party because he knows there's something else going on. We see him in his journal writing to Bruce saying that he doesn't hate a lot of people, but this guy he absolutely can't stand. Lumos introduces himself to Terry and telling him how cool it must have been to get to know the real Bruce Wayne before he passed. But Terry, sneaking a bug onto Donovan's shoulder, tells him to keep Bruce Wayne's name out of your mouth. With a listening device in place, Batman then takes to the skies. He's wondering if Wayne Powers wasn't putting on such a big light show to hide what Gotham is truly doing in the dark. But if he's going to get any answers, he's going to need to get the help of the best detective in Gotham. We see him paying a little visit to Barbara Gordon. Batman once again working with Gotham's police chief and telling her that Lumos is smuggling pharmaceuticals in using Wayne Powers. When he reveals that he has a bugged confession of Donovan Lumos saying this, Barbara tells him to turn it in. But if Terry's going to be throwing himself at a bunch of rich drug smugglers with more guns than he has teeth, he might as well hear this. Barbara's retiring. The city doesn't need her anymore. The crime rate in Gotham has at least flattened out, and Terry asks if that doesn't worry her, and she says, honestly, no, it makes me happy. It's a life's work. Batman watches her walk away, knowing that he can't tell her the truth. He can't tell her about the living Gotham. Tell her that nothing she has done matters, and that she has to keep fighting because she would be dead the minute he left. He heads out into the night and fights for the both of them. We see Terry taking down the security of this most recent smuggling shipment as he hears Bruce's words in the back of his head about how everything is practice, how he has to hone his instincts into the perfect tool. He always has to have a plan and to never fight angry, but above all else, never be surprised. Terry immediately locks into battle with this new random assailant. He's being told that the city just needs time to find balance. Whoever this is, Terry doesn't recognize him. Bruce had no files on him. He definitely wasn't in his rogues gallery. Terry is left fighting blind, hoping that he at least has the right tools to take care of the job. Knocking his attacker back down to the ground, Terry learns that whoever this is isn't fighting for themselves. No, they're calling themselves the Sword of Gotham. The Sword tells Batman that the city is not his enemy. It doesn't want his head. It wants his heart. It wants his compliance. He says the shipment that Terry just ruined would have got pushed out into the streets. It eventually would have killed 3,450 people. Yes, Batman stopped that, but he tells him there is no winning or losing here. It's all about cold, hard numbers. There are currently 3,449 people beneath their feet, and Gotham has sent its sword to keep that line flat. We see the power that this sword was containing. Terry begins to get buried beneath the rubble of this massive explosion as he's telling Bruce that he swears it, that he will keep fighting because Batman endures. As we see Terry digging his way out of the rubble of a massive explosion, the living Gotham is talking in his ear. He had just stopped a drug shipment from coming into Gotham, a shipment that would have eventually went on to kill thousands of people. But the living Gotham said that those people would have got to live a little longer. They would have died slowly, but Batman forced its hand. Tells Terry to give up, to give in to the system, to just let these people die. But a defiant Batman says never. After Terry recovered from the disastrous explosion, we see him out working again, striking in the shadows, striking only at night. Gotham prepares for Terry and adjusts, and her sword counters every single thing he does. There's no place he can't be seen, there's nowhere that he can hide that the living Gotham wouldn't know, and his suit sure as hell isn't helping. You see Terry modifying it, taking extra steps to keep the suit covered and to keep it hidden, because if he's going to save the city, then the city can't see him coming. Terry hits the streets undercover. He's looking for angles, he's looking for crimes that stand out, something that breaks the pattern. Finally, through some tough investigative work, he catches wind of a jewel thief, one that Gotham can't find and can't stop. We see Terry staking out the location of the supposed next heist, and while patience was never one of his strong points, he sure as hell is getting better at it. In order to break into the building once he sees his target, he has to use the last of his sonic batarangs. With the Batcave now gone, his tool belt is dwindling more and more by the day. Now inside, he comes face to face with the thieves calling themselves the Gestalt. As they take off, Terry notes a couple of things quickly: that they're fast, but they also work seamlessly together. It's like they're using some kind of advanced pathfinding. They're highly coordinated. They lead Batman exactly where he wouldn't want to follow them. Terry thinks to himself that it's like that old saying that people used back when they used to pack the churches. You know what God does when you make plans? He laughs, as Batman has been led straight to Jokertown. As he slugs his way through Jokertown, Terry remembers the rules that Batman had told him anytime he faced the Jokers. They prey on your mercy. Mercy is nothing but a joke to them, and don't let them laugh. Number 2 is you'll always be outnumbered, so you make sure every single shot counts. Number 3 is that all of these people are untrained. No matter what they're saying, no matter what weapons they hold, it's all a distraction to try and keep you from remembering that. Fourth rule that Terry came up with on his own is you gotta beat them to the punchline. Now, as he triumphantly rises up to the rooftops to chase down the Gestalt once again, he tells them that that might have worked on somebody else. But here's the thing. He's the Batman. Now, he wraps the Gestalt up in one of his lines and takes off flying through the skies. That is, until the rocket fuel in his boots runs dry and he has to land with them on a nearby rooftop. And just like that, another one of Bruce's gifts are gone. Terry tells them that he's not here to take them in. He doesn't need another villain. He doesn't need another rogue. Right now, he needs an ally. One that can specifically do what they are doing. He tells them about the living Gotham, about what it's doing, how it undermines every single person's autonomy, and they tell him they know. Looking into Terry's eyes, they show him the truth, that the three of them were once engineers, and they realized the living Gotham came online. While these three people hated each other, with this superintelligence's presence, they realized that individual human autonomy was over. So together, the three of them found a way to become a hive mind, completely connected and a superintelligence of their own. They did this to avoid the living Gotham and its control, and they work only in their own interests. Terry tries to plead with them one last time and tells them that, believe it or not, he was once like them. A young kid who thought he was free, that was coloring outside the lines, but it cost him everything. He tells them if they want to keep up with what they're doing and they want to play in Gotham's blind spots and just pray that the city never notices, it's fine, but don't call it freedom. It's nothing more than cowardice in a fancy mask, and while the words feel good coming off of his lips, they fall like raindrops in an ocean, and just like that, Batman is again alone. We see Barbara Gordon heading out of the building with all of her stuff from her desk as she's walking away from the life of a police officer and into the life of retirement. Later that night, we see Barbara arriving at her retirement party, being hosted by none other than Wayne Power's newest CEO, Donovan Lumos. While the party may have been in her honor, she wasn't the only familiar face at the celebration, as we see Terry McGinnis crashing his way in. All of this with the living Gotham being under constant surveillance has really made Terry contemplate his identity. He thinks back to Bruce's words, how in his own mind he wasn't even calling himself Bruce anymore. While he used to think that was crazy, he's starting to understand. And as people still continue to roll into the party, Terry can't help himself but to be pissed at Babs. He knows in his heart that he should be happy for her, but he thinks this must be how Bruce felt all of those times before with Grayson or Drake or Brown. Barbara Gordon is another name on the list of people that quit the fight before it ended. Now, Batman is looking for a lead about what the living Gotham is doing next. He's working around the room silently, listening in to conversations. He listens to the corrupt and horrible things that Neo-Gotham's elite talk about while he's drinking a glass of champagne that would cost somebody a month's salary. But Terry's research gets interrupted when Barbara finally goes up to give her big speech. And her final words to the people is that Gotham is not just a city, it's a living, breathing thing. Despite all of the hate in its heart, they could work together to make it better, to heal it. The city has a pulse, you just have to be willing to listen to it. As she wraps up her heartfelt speech, everyone claps and cheers and says goodbye to Barbara's long and illustrious career as a Gotham City cop. And then, Donovan Lumos quickly announces that he himself will be funding Gotham PD. Amidst the chaos and everyone's surprise as Lumos announces his plans for backing the police department, Terry finally gets the break that he's looking for. Because as it would turn out, this party is missing one big attendee. The mayor himself has been missing for 32 hours. Now later, we see Barbara corner Donovan and tell the CEO of Wayne Powers that the law catches everyone eventually. Donovan breaks it down to her honestly and says that he doesn't give a shit about this city, but this city works, and it makes money, and more importantly, it's making him money. He tells Babs not to worry, that Gotham is an asset, and it's entirely too valuable to let it all go to hell. While Lumos will surely be lacing the pockets of every cop in Gotham, Terry begins to look for somebody that he can get on the inside, somebody who's wearing a frown about all of this news. And that's when he begins to find and chat up Beam Booma. As they're chatting, Terry wonders to himself if this is how Bruce felt when he first met Jim. While every instinct in Terry's body is telling him to trust Beam and to rip off his mask and reveal his identity, he knows that Bruce would have played it differently. He waits and keeps his cover and asks if she wants to get the hell out of here. Now the two go to grab a burger and are really hitting it off, and Terry really genuinely believes that she is the cop that he needs. She's above all the bribery and genuinely cares about the well-being of Gotham. But the young Batman still has plenty to learn as he overplays his hand and asks Beam about the missing mayor. Terry is quickly reminded that while yes, he may have learned from Bruce, he still sure as hell isn't him. Beam quickly puts him in his place, slamming his head off the table and telling him that she doesn't work with anybody. Now, she doesn't know who the hell sent him, but she won't be handing out any information. She doesn't take bribes. She doesn't work with gangs. She's above all of that shit. And as she storms off, Terry thinks to himself that she may hate his fake identity. Hell, she may hate Terry McGinnis himself. But the next time he sees her, he'll be showing her his true face, and she's going to make one hell of an ally. The young Bat's night is far from over as we see him grappling up the side of the mayor's tower, having to do things the old-fashioned way because he's out of rocket fuel. But funny enough, Terry actually enjoys this because this old-fashioned way makes him feel closer to Bruce. When Batman finally makes it to the penthouse, he sees a man there sitting at his desk, and he tells the mayor that people are worried about him. But when the mayor goes to speak, Terry realizes this is the voice of the living Gotham. He immediately throws his batarang uselessly into a hologram. Living Gotham tells Terry that it was content to let him live out his days and age and die. But he refuses to learn his place. He won't stop fighting. He will not get in line. So direct action has become necessary. The room he's in can't be escaped. It can't be broken. And then finally a voice comes through and tells Terry that this is his tomb. Sword of Gotham tells him he will die in it alone. We see an old man stumbling out of a retirement home in the piss-pouring rain of the streets of Gotham. And all the while in his head, he hears Gotham speaking to him, telling him that it's nothing personal. Every time there's a new birth in Gotham, it randomly selects a member of the retirement home to die because after all, it's nothing personal. The line just must stay flat. While most lives that Gotham takes are not personal, this one is, as we see its sword trying to kill Terry. And during all of this, Terry is starting to realize what being Batman is all about. The world takes its best swings at you, knocks your teeth out, changes the flow of gravity even, but you just stay standing. The fight is brutal, each blow causing Terry tremendous amounts of pain. No more pain than hearing Bruce's words in the back of his head and remembering that he truly is gone. But when Batman hears Bruce's memory talking to him in these most desperate moments, he makes sure to listen. Your foe only knows what you show them. Weakness or strength, confidence or fear, it's all about perception. They'll lock you in a cage because they think that makes you desperate as they would be in your position. But you're not them. You're not a coward. You don't panic. You are Batman. As we see, Terry was able to trick the Sword of Gotham into cutting his way out. For a second, Batman is confident. He thinks he got away, that he sprung the trap, that the Sword of Gotham is long in his rearview mirror. Obviously, he hasn't. As we see him getting smacked through the air, he's using the suit's very last bit of power just to keep himself alive. He just stays standing, as we see him redirecting what bit of power the suit has left to his legs as he throws the Sword of Gotham off the building. And he tries to fight smart, but it still isn't enough. The Sword of Gotham stands on Terry's back triumphant as it picks Batman up by the ear. It begins to pierce its sword through his chest. It tells him that the city thanks him for his service, but he is now relieved of his duty. Terry feels his suit dying around his body, but the thing is, he's not the suit, as we see him mustering up all his strength to grab a kinetic batarang and throw it. The Sword of Gotham catches it, and as it explodes, the hard light around his body begins to dissipate as he sees his true identity. Securing the crime scene is taking more effort than Terry's used to, and he feels the suit fighting him with every move. His body heat is the only thing keeping it from locking up and trapping him inside. Batman finds out that this old man was nobody. He wasn't a fighter, he had no combat training, no military record, he was just an old man. While he packs him to the hospital and unloads him, he feels terrible about what he's done. But he hears Bruce's voice in his head again, reminding him that he wasn't fighting this poor helpless man. He was fighting Gotham itself, just using his body as a sword. On his last legs, we see Terry going for help, stumbling to the last thing even resembling a friend that he has left. Batman begins to tell the last good cop in Gotham about this rogue superintelligence, how it's controlling everything. Infrastructure, banking, communications, but that's not all. It was able to take some helpless 75-year-old man and turn him into a full-blown soldier. It killed Bruce Wayne, and it's taken everything Terry has just to stay alive. While Beam hears him out on this, she realizes that if he dies, the case does too. If he's here, it means that his odds are really that bad, but then she wonders if he can hear that voice, whispering to Booma, telling her to tell Terry that it found you. Just like that, Gotham has a new sword. Now Terry tells it that it should have left her alone, but Gotham tells him he should have been better at hiding. Beam wasn't dirty, she wasn't involved in anything she shouldn't have been, she was just a regular paranoid cop. She would have taken every precaution. There's no Lumos tech here, she's not on anyone's payroll, and yet, it still got to her. That means that Gotham can be anyone, and it is everyone. Terry continues fighting, battling for his life, even though his body is screaming against him. Ribs are getting broken, his skull is protected by the cowl, but his brain inside sure isn't. Yet, punch after punch, blow after blow, Terry still rises to his feet, with blood pouring out of his mouth, saying he is still standing. Now, Batman finds Beam's taser laying on the ground and finally is able to exploit a weakness that the living Gotham has in its hard-like tech. And while he hooks this taser up to his suit, Terry runs knowing that he's fighting not for his life, not against some supervillain, but to save a friend. With one supercharged punch from the taser, Batman is able to shatter the hard-like construct that is possessing the only thing close to a friend he has left. He's able to successfully break Officer Booma's fall, and thankfully her vitals are all good, but he can't take her to a hospital to get the care that she needs. As he picks her up and packs her off, he knows he's going to take her somewhere safe, somewhere that is just like the two of them. Still standing, as we see Batman waiting at the gate of the old Wayne Manor. After the closest thing that he has to a friend, Officer Boomna, had been possessed by the living Gotham, we see Terry heading back to the only place in the entire city that he knows is safe and knows is off the grid, the Batcave. Turns out, he wasn't the only one who had this idea, as he was greeted by the hive mind, the Gestalt. Before they freak out, Batman explains that the electronics in his suit are completely dead. He's completely off the grid. If any of them are going to have any kind of hope to defeat the living Gotham, Terry needs their help in order to save his new ally. The Gestalt start to run scans. They start to look through Beam's body and discover how in the hell she was able to get possessed in the first place. Finally, they find the infection, holographic pico emitters buried inside of her pores. And the symmetry is unmistakable. This is Donovan Lumos' hard light holographic tech. This technology won't just make him rich, it will make him unstoppable. And the Gestalt, asking for forgiveness rather than permission, checks Terry's blood, and sure enough, Terry was infected too. It turns out Lumos and Gotham had poisoned everyone through the water supply. The Gestalt are going to do everything in their collective power in order to try to figure out a way to cure people, to purge them of this techno-organic virus. But in order to do so, they're going to need a lot of time, but the good news is they're all safe as long as they remain in the Batcave. Terry reflecting on all of this, about how the city, his home, his entire world is now his greatest enemy. And he knows that Bruce saw Gotham the same way, that it was sick and it needed a cure, and he traveled the world, climbed to the highest mountains, and down into the darkest pits in order to become the thing that Gotham needed. Now, living Gotham, of course, can't locate Terry right now and assumes the Batman is hiding, but that's not what he's doing at all. Terry is just going down into his pit. Now, 3 weeks later, we see Donovan Lumos going on TV to announce the third of his trinary galas. Now, the party is in celebration of him, of Gotham's newest and brightest son, and his first year as Wayne Power CEO. You don't host a party like that in Gotham, but rather in the sky above it. Meanwhile, while Gotham's newest son is talking about hoisting himself up in the sky, we go below ground where it's been 100 days since Terry McGinnis has even seen sunlight. 3 months or better since Terry has spoken to a person, and while he thought this would be hard for him to do, Bruce's voice keeps ringing through the back of his head, pushing him forward. Finally, the Gestalt interrupts his workout and tells him it's ready. And Terry is too. Now, months of the Gestalt's work has kept Beam Boomna in a stasis, has kept her alive, and is now ready to try and flush out all of the Lumos tech in her body. And with a singular push of a button, we see their hard work has paid off. Beam realizes that she's been saved, that the sword is gone, it's completely out of her head. Now she just wants answers, and maybe a cheap bottle of wine. Later, we see Terry trying to catch Officer Boomna up to speed, and she can't help but ask if the guy who came before him was like his dad or something. He tells her, not my dad, not really, but he was something. But he tells her that that man spent his entire life getting his face pummeled into the concrete of this city. Even when he couldn't stand, he fought off injustices with a walking stick, and he thought that maybe Terry could be him, and Terry started to believe it too. But he explains that being Batman is a struggle with no answer or no end. Every time he stops a bad guy, Gotham brings out a new one. She's not just one step ahead, she's the whole damn world. But Beam reminds Terry about what Batman truly is, about how the original Batman inspired her parents. Yes, he was there to make people feel safe, but more importantly, he inspired them to fight for themselves, even when he lost. Especially when he lost, and that is why people loved him. Batman is not a solution to a problem. He is not the darkness. That's never what he truly was to you, me, or any of us. He was the symbol in the sky that reminded everybody to keep fighting, and if you don't want Batman to die in this cave, maybe that's all you have to be. Now, Terry rises up and ditches the mask that Bruce gave him into Gotham Harbor and finally accepts that Bruce is really gone. Meanwhile, we see the living Gotham and Donovan Lumos preparing for the New Year party. 10.8 million people with their eyes in the sky and no room for any darkness to slither or crawl through. There will be a living Gotham inside of everyone, an entire city of itself. But it turns out that Gotham isn't the only one who is ready to light up the sky. We see the living Gotham celebrating alongside Donovan Lumos in his huge New Year's Eve gala, because by the end of the night, Gotham will not only be controlling the entire city, but everyone in it too. But the living Gotham wasn't the only one getting prepared, as we see its greatest enemy, the only single person that it fears, Batman, out recruiting some help. While Terry reveals the truth to Babs about what's been happening with Gotham, about the sentient AI controlling everything behind the scenes, he tells her that this city can kill Batman, but it can't kill everyone as long as they all stand together. Just 15 minutes to midnight and the new year where Gotham aims to take complete control, Donovan Lumos is told he's having a problem. As Donovan's holographic light show goes dark, a voice starts broadcasting to everyone in Gotham, telling them that they have eaten well. They've chewed up the poor, they've distracted the rich, they have lit up the sky and infected everyone's mind. But the city doesn't belong to you, it belongs to the darkness. The future of Gotham belongs to the night as Batman makes his entrance. Living Gotham hasn't seen its foe for months, but the fear of Batman lurking in the shadows has only caused it to prepare harder. We see it turn every single person at this party into a sort of Gotham. It tells Terry that your murder will be the last one this city ever knows. The battle begins. Donovan Lumos is screaming at Terry, telling him to stop it, that his cosplaying sack of shit is ruining everything. We see Terry's plan being set into motion. Officer Boomna is there trying to evacuate everyone she can. Barbara has gotten half the Gotham PD there on her side to assist. The Gestalt, using Terry's new suit, are hacking into Gotham's mainframes to burn its firewalls down. We see Terry pushing the limits of this new suit and the hard light technology that comes along with it. With one huge burst, he's able to dissipate the hard light holographic control that Gotham has on its people. He tells all the citizens to get to the evacuation point to get to safety, and while Beam is going to handle all of that, Terry heads to cut Donovan Lumos off. Now, Terry goes to confront Lumos about all of this, about how his tech is being used to possess people, and Donovan had no clue about the part he was playing in this plan. Batman explains that the living Gotham is just using him, using his technology. He's just another sacrifice for the city. While Terry's explaining all this, the Gestalt interrupt him and tell him that Gotham is no longer waiting until midnight. It's moved the deadline up. It's activating the nanites it's implanted in all of its citizens now. As they all begin to become tools of this superintelligence, Terry tells Donovan what's happening, how the people of this city are literally having their free will stripped away. As this is happening, they're fighting for their lives down there. They're not giving up. They're trying to push through because they understand something that Donovan just doesn't. You have a choice that you make every day to live through the darkness rather than to give in. That is what Batman is. Donovan tells Terry if that's the case, he's making the other decision. He's deciding to opt in. Whatever this superintelligence is pitching, he's buying. As he feels the power surging into his body, he thinks for a second that he's made the right decision, until he can tell that he's no longer in control. Heather has become Gotham's greatest living weapon, and only has one thing in his brain: kill Batman. As they begin battling, we see Terry asking Officer Boomna if all the evacuees are clear, and when she gives him the go-ahead, we see Batman taking a dive off this tower in the sky because it turns out that Officer Boomna and Barbara weren't the only help he was getting. No, instead, he was setting the Jokers up for their big punchline as we see them all firing missiles at Donovan Lumos. This massive explosion proved to be just too much for even Donovan Lumos' tech. And with all the living Gotham's focus on trying to stop Batman trying to kill Terry McGinnis, the Gestalt were able to hack into its signaling system. There, they forced their update, shut down the Lumos tech, and saved the city. And we see a triumphant Batman swooping in to stop Donovan from free-falling to his death, and as he does, he tells his old mentor Bruce, Happy New Year. With the living Gotham's connection to everything severed, we see it slowly fading away. Terry writes one final entry in his journal where he talks about the city and how it's getting cleaned up, how they're electing a new mayor. Babs is cleaning up the Batcave, and together her and the Gestalt are coming up with plans to try and extend its defenses to the entire city. Finally, Terry tells Bruce that he's good, that he thinks that he would be proud of him, that he earned his trust. Most of all, he hopes that Bruce found peace, as Terry is going to start looking for his. And finally, he wishes the memory of Bruce Wayne goodbye. Terry then finds Officer Boomna, where the two of them are going on a proper date this time, and there's no better place to do that than at Gotham's now annual Batfest. Because while Bruce Wayne may be gone, Batman lives.